Welcome back for part 2 of our missing persons interview with Division of Criminal Investigations Major Calvin Brown and Statewide Clearinghouse Manager and Amber Alert Coordinator Craig Burge. Without further ado, let's catch back up with our host and Southern Deputy Chief Sergeant Joey Watson right here on Peak Beneath the Peak.
So, and maybe this is a little broad as well, but what does the worst case scenario with a successful resolution case look like? What's the typical flow of that, and how does it work through the system?
The worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is ultimately,
It's going to be a child.
Yeah, it's going to be a child, and getting there too late, something like that. And then that
So
kicks
you're behind the clock, like you were saying.
And then the investigation's having to play catch up.
Okay. So how does that process work then at that point?
Go ahead.
I was just saying that a stranger abduction is number one by far the most difficult case you'll ever hear. So anytime you hear, anytime we get a report of a stranger abduction, obviously automatically it's going to hit Amber. But then we don't have a specific lead to go off of because it's a stranger. So then you're relying on trying to get physical evidence about somebody being in that area or a vehicle being in that area. So we're behind the 8 ball already. A lot of our abductions, maybe we have a suspect, maybe we have a vehicle, maybe it was the neighbor or somebody, we already know that. With a stranger abduction, you're starting at ground zero. So you get in, you start at ground zero, and you're trying to collect maybe surveillance in the area. You're trying to, talk to witnesses, go canvassing door to door. You're doing all of that kind of stuff. So that's where the worst scenario would actually start. Then in the meantime, in the back end of things, we're gathering information that
we being stick,
myself is gathering information that we can disseminate to the public so that they can be on a lookout for any of that information. And maybe they were driving through and didn't notice anything, but now we're telling them something happened here. So that we tell them where to call. What did you see while you're in that area? All of those kind of things to get that information out as quickly as we possibly can so that we can start getting in tips as quickly as we possibly can. So the triage on my end is trying to take all that information, get it out to the public, and then ultimately get it to the investigators that are on the ground so that they can then look into that and see if we can we can get a quick and efficient conclusion to this case.
Yeah,
Awesome.
As Craig said, with a child, it's kind of what we led off with. There's no reason for a child to be missing. So
Right.
that stranger abduction is a lot different than with an adult. With an adult, it's almost the opposite. So generally, there's probably a vehicle involved. Generally, there's probably a vehicle involved that someone is missing from a vehicle, or they have financial means, debit cards, credit cards. So for us as an investigator, finding information that they're using them is the same as us finding information that there is no use. If someone says, okay, this person is missing, they've been gone since this date, I'm like, okay, let's check their phone. No activity on the phone. Let's check their bank, see if they've used their financial record. No activity there. Let's see if their car's moved or where it's last seen. Well, the car was seen here, but it hasn't been seen anywhere else since then. So for an investigator with us, it's just, that's when it moves into that category, kind of like a child. It's like, okay, who or what are we looking for? We're just looking for a person now. There's no activity on the known things. So now we got to start looking at those unknowns. So that's probably the worst case scenario for us is like all the known things that we could track are coming up zeros. And then we're really looking for a person or what connects them to some other person or some other thing that we got to develop and figure out. And that's time consuming, which once we get that thing, it's if you were to go to current events and looking for certain things, in the Gabby Petito case, they had a car, they had people, they had known things to look for, they had routes. So you had an area, even though it could be a big area, you had areas to check and certain things that they could work with. If that had just been, oh, I was with this person and they decided to go out that night and we didn't go with them, but they didn't come home. Okay, then we're okay. All the people that we've known were with, they were someplace else, and they have credible information of where they were, and it's believable. Then we're looking at the unknown. So the unknowns and being behind the clock is probably that worst case scenario I can think of.
Right, and maybe this falls into your wheelhouse, Craig. The Gabby Petito case, they were very active on social media. They were posting all the time. So how does the social media component play into what you're doing within STIC and getting those resources back out to the LEOs?
Well, it essentially escalates it. You know, the more people, the more followers you have, the more people that are connected through, you know, major social network sites, the more we can push out accurate information to them. And hopefully by us pushing out the information that they're pulling from a credible source like Illinois State Police. The worst thing that could happen is they pull from a source that is made up. It doesn't make any sense or anything like that. So as much positive information and correct information that we can put out maybe supersedes some of that other information that's cluttering up you know, the social media that's out there. Again, with your posting with social media, that allows us to take that information and put it out in our distributions. So we send out posters, we send out flyers, we send out emails, and we can take from that social network picture that you displayed, or last known location, or you know, maybe you took a selfie in front of a tree. We can put out that tree. Somebody may identify that tree, and they drove by that car and they took a picture of it, and they didn't realize it at the time. So it's one of those things where somebody saw something. It's just getting to that right person. And them getting the information that we're looking for, so that we can get feedback back from them.
You know, one of the things that you mentioned was, you know, getting information out to the public in a credible manner. So for us in the Illinois State Police, what is available for the public? This is that kind of drawing everything back to, you know, interaction with the public. How can we support that effort with the Illinois State Police? What's available to them, and where can they get it?
So on my side of things, the Clearinghouse for Missing Persons in Illinois has a Facebook page. We also have a Twitter page. So Illinois has teamed with Twitter. They've been one of our good sponsors. At ISP Alerting is where we put out our alerts. And the thing with our alerts is that when we put them out, especially if we can put them out through a cell phone link, when you click on it, everybody can click on it to obtain more information. We push that to Twitter. And the reason why we do that is because 1.3 to 1.5 million people can hit it at the same time. Most state sites, most outside sites can't handle that value. They see it as a spam risk or a threat to their infrastructure. Twitter, they see those spikes all the time. They're a major, you know, national, you know, international company to where they have those spikes depending on what's going on in the world. So we're a verified Twitter user, and they have on our account, based on our you know, our spiking that we're going to have when we got a major case, they give us enough bandwidth so that 1.3, 1.5, 2, 3, 4 million people can access that information all at the very same time. So we push them out to Twitter, who's been a great partner to us, and that way we can update them through that. If anybody follows us, they'll get information true and up to date. One of the worst things about our wireless emergency alerts, and those are the horrendous hit tones that you get on your cell phones, you get it, and then it's gone. And then you thought, oh, well, what happened? Did they find them? Did they not find them? Is it still active? So it's kind of gone. With having that link, you can always follow that from here on out. You may take you to it initially and say, oh, here's the vehicle, here's the child. Well, 3 hours later, you can go back and see, oh yeah, she's still missing, or the vehicle is still out there, or you know, it's been canceled because the child has been recovered. So you get an end game to that, and people take this really seriously. You know, the public that get this, there's no deeper sympathy than a missing child. So when they know and they can take this personally, you know, they can help us in returning that child home more safely and efficiently.
And State Police also has a portion of their website as well that has some of this information. Can you kind of point us towards where it's at?
So
located?
we have a website, amberillinois.org, which is our Amber Alert website. And then if you go to the State Police website, there is a page for missing persons information. It'll tell you some of the long-term missing persons cases that ISP is either lead agency on or an assisting agency on. There's also all types of you know, missing person language, legislation, criteria, all of the things that if you have a question about whether your case meets the threshold of filing missing persons report, you can go out of there and access those resources to determine whether or not it fits your scenario.
And depending on your platform, it's either under the Division of Criminal Investigation or it's a hot link over on the side. So if you're looking for that on our page.
Not to take away from the abducted children, but those that go missing that have some sort of cognitive impairment, whether it be they have some sort of Alzheimer's, dementia, any other kind of cognitive impairment, those are rising exponentially as far as those cases that we see. We have, like I mentioned, an endangered missing persons advisory that we can send out for those. It's like we call it a silver search. That brings all of the agencies together. It brings Illinois Department of Aging. It brings AARP. It brings, again, the Department of Transportation, Alzheimer's Association. All of these agencies get together and we figure out what we can do when those type of people goes missing. Not only is it the investigative, portion of things, but it's also the how do you be proactive about having a loved one that has these type of disorders, and what do you do when law enforcement shows up? Law enforcement could show up to your house when your mom or dad goes missing. You should have certain things on hand for law enforcement so that can help them in their investigation. Do they have a cell phone with them? Do you have a recent picture of the person? Is their vehicle assigned to a specific OnStar system, or do they have a GPS system that that is available to them? Have they ran before? If so, where did they go? What is their disorder or disability? Are they violent when they go missing? Do they have mental episodes in the past, and what's happened? Like I mentioned earlier in this, the greatest predictor of future behavior is past behavior. What have they done in the past? Where can we go, to search for them, once an officer arrives on that scene?
And so you're talking autistic children that are on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. You're also talking, especially the Alzheimer's. I personally have. I had a grandmother that had Alzheimer's, and it was not uncommon. I was a police officer in a little bitty town. It was not uncommon for me to get a call from the gas station and say, "Hey, your grandma's here," and literally the gas station was a half of a block down and across the street. But she'd go across the street to get a soda, and she'd get lost. And so I completely identify with some of those things. Talking about some of the other resources, especially the silver search, how do they access those things?
So a local department can contact our Springfield Communications Center, our 24-hour operations center. They can submit the information to them, and then we'll go ahead and enter that on a statewide basis, depending on how mobile they are, or we can break it down into different areas of the state. If you look at Illinois, we break it down into thirds. So basically from the north kind of down to I-80 and kind of cut it off there, and then we kind of come down towards I-64-ish and kind of cut it off there. So you have like a 3 pieces of the pie, and we can alert in all of those areas, and we can alert in 2 of those areas, or we can alert in 1 of those areas. It depends. And how we're going to realize that is local law enforcement is going to tell us what's going on. Did they walk on foot? How long have they been missing? Do they have a vehicle? Are they access to public transportation? All of those kind of things will determine and help us understand where are we geo-targeting this alert to? Where are we focusing our efforts to?
And the beautiful thing about your particular position within STIC is even with those geographic boundaries in Illinois, you also have access to Missouri and Indiana and Kentucky and all of those people around you as well because of those abilities.
And we have something called iSearch. And iSearch is a group of the 13 Midwest states that all get together biannually. All of their missing person and Amber coordinators all meet face to face in a room, because these cases happen not Monday through Friday at 8 to 5. It's usually 3 o'clock in the morning. So in my cell phone, I have every clearinghouse manager and Amber Alert coordinator in every one of those states where I can pick up at 3 o'clock in the morning. They know me. They've talked to me. They've sat across the table with me. They know that if I'm calling them, that is a real important issue. Yep. And I'm not having to call 3 or 4 or 5 different places to try to get a hold. I'm calling the person that knows what they're doing. And again, time is of the essence, so you want to get a hold of that person that can do it right away.
Man, that's awesome. Oh, I love this.
I know there's the Dalton Marshek case that's up in the DeKalb County area. Unfortunately, it was before I started here at the Clearinghouse. I know it's been investigated many times, but we always want to keep that to the forefront because there may be further information from somebody that comes forth, or hopefully new technology or something. Every year we learn about new technologies, whether it be DNA technologies or other type of technologies that help us with missing persons or unidentified persons, which could probably be another one of these interviews to talk about how they are using DNA and family reference DNA samples.
Oh, we definitely want to do that because of the maternal use of genealogical DNA.
Yeah, and that's happening more and more now. So what we didn't think we could get 10 years ago that we're getting now, who knows what we're going to get 10 years from now. So we got to keep our hopes up that all of those missing kids that or adults or anybody that's missing out there, that eventually we'll have something that brings closure to the family.
Now, Major Brown, how would people, especially because we cold case, a lot of that is out there. If somebody has information on cases, what would probably be the best way for them to get that information to the people that matter in that investigation?
I always say, if anyone has any information about any specific case that they think they need to let someone know about, call your local law enforcement. It doesn't have to be a specific law enforcement. Call them, and that's a place to start. Why figure out, well, I need to call the state police, I need to call the FBI, I need to call Bloomington PD or whoever. Just call your local law enforcement. Say, I have this information. I want to pass it along, and they'll help you get to the right person.
Right.
So that don't figure it out. Or we have, like we talked about, the ISP websites that some of our missing people, or social media. There's so many different resources. As Craig mentioned, their clearinghouse with National Center for
Missing and Exploited Children.
Exploited children. And there's
We
probably
have
one for adults.
Yeah, we have an 800 line with the state police. 1-800-YOU-HELP-ME. It comes to the Clearinghouse. Like Major Brown said, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children works directly with myself, with STIC, so that we can pass information along on a national or international basis. So there's plenty of resources out there if people could reach out. I mean, sure, there are DNA kits for your child. They have a lot of those fingerprint days that are out there that we've had. Some of the hospitals now, they give you a kit when you come home with the blood sample on there for the DNA. If your child does have a cell phone, you want all the passwords, all the information, all the social networks that they're a part of. Wi-Fi information, any information, especially regarding any type of technology that your child has access to. You also want to know information about their friends, numbers of their friends. If they're if they're in certain groups, on Facebook or any other type of social network. So just the more that you have about your child and what your child's doing, especially electronically, the better off that we are as law enforcement, so that we're not so far behind when it comes to reporting.
One of the things that we do in our family, like when we arrive at the state fair or when we arrive at Disney World or wherever it is we're at, hey, look, it's family photo time, and the kids think it's fun, but what you're actually doing is you're capturing exactly what they're wearing. So if something were to happen in that park or in that venue, you have, this is exactly what they were last wearing, and it gives you that leg up. Also, to piggyback off what you were saying just a second ago, because it is in our wheelhouse, the Safety Education Unit has merged with the Public Information Unit again. So be watching your local district Facebook pages, be watching the Illinois State Police page, and we do offer those exact services where you can come out, get your child fingerprinted, get a picture taken. We'll roll all 10 of their fingerprints, and we'll give you a card that you can stick in the safe at home, and that'll give you the opportunity to have those available when law enforcement needs them, if that should ever happen. So anything else that you guys want to add before we wrap up?
I'll put one last little plug in here for probably one that most people don't ever think about and just popped into my head, and it's from my time here at STIC, is international travel. a lot of people don't think that, you know, we talked about, and it just came to the forefront. You think about when people, you know, were in other countries and there has to be an evacuation or something like that. A lot of times the United States doesn't know how many of our residents are in other countries. Register yourself with the State Department when you travel, or your loved ones. Some of us may have, you know, teenage, you know, children who may go to Europe or things like that.
It reminds me of the Haiti, the 17 missionaries.
Register yourself with the State Department that you're traveling, that you're going abroad, so that if it may not be the state police, but other federal law enforcement, if they have to start looking for them, they have a place, they have somewhere to start. They have a place to go, okay, they were staying here, this is who their contact was, and things like that. And that when they travel, they have that type of information, because people not only go missing here, they can go missing, you know, anywhere around the world. And,
right.
and you know, we're a transitory population. People like to travel. So that's my last little plug, but it's just one of those things. You can usually find that on the State Department. That was one of the things that we did for a lot of people here, that, you know, certain officials, when they travel, we'd register them that they're out of the country. I'm Major Calvin Brown with the Illinois State Police.
And I'm Craig Burge, Clearinghouse Manager for Illinois State Police. And there is your peak beneath the peak.